Microphone check 1 2 1 2. How is everybody doing? I hope you can hear me okay. If you can hear me, let me know. It's so good to have you here on this wonderful Friday. Ooh, wee, honey. Friday is the weekend. I hope y'all have good plans for the week. I hope y'all got stuff in store. Have y'all seen this? I want to let everybody in my my everybody. I'll be honest with you guys. Chat. When it comes to this subject, I have to be really honest. Like, it makes me a little nervous, y'all. Like, for real. Like, this subject, even though I've touched on it in the past, and if you haven't seen um, the last broadcast, A Man's True Nature, be sure to check that out because it'll give you guys a lot of context to this conversation. So thank you guys for letting me know that you can hear me. Shout out to all of you. I'm sure all of the audio, it'll kind of even out or whatever. Thank you for letting me know I'm good now. But I do want to talk about this in relation to kind of following up on a man's true nature. I talked about this in the last broadcast, and y'all, this subject is triggering as hell. For real, like this subject is gonna be very, very triggering. And I picked it because I saw the meme about, Nia Long's man cheated on, she got cheated on, and Halle Berry and Beyonce got cheated on. Is it any hope for us? Like, I saw that and I was triggered by that, but not for the same reasons that most Black women or even people would be triggered. But this shouldn't even be a thing, y'all. I want to jump right into this. And I have something that I've talked about in the last broadcast, and I'm inviting a lot of my guys, my brothers, my kings to come join me in a Zoom call so we can unpack this conversation, because I think we need to start changing the language and context of cheating, infidelity, and what that even is. I'm going to read a passage out of my book, and I think it's important to read this. But if y'all don't know about Nia Long's husband having an affair, it's really just a celebrity's husband having an affair. But I'm going to read this passage really quick. And it's on page 63 of my book, An Intro to Breaking Soul Ties and Womb Cleansing. And this is a reason it's for men and women. But in the title of, in the section about infidelity, husband sharing, village, and polygamy, yeah, I say there is one dark cloud that looms over all relationships. We all know it's there, and its presence is felt by the average person, becoming the most fear of all in love: cheating. Dun dun dun. Believe it or not, infidelity was a foreign concept to many of our ancestors. At the time of marriage, rituals were performed to maintain loyalty and commitment in the union. But in Western society, things are left up to chance. Okay, so I read that because I said it's time to deal with this head on, because I know that if we keep on talking about it in the way we're talking about it, we're not going to get anywhere. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the conversation for your emotions, ladies. Gentlemen, ladies, this is not the conversation for your emotions. This is the conversation for critical thinkers, okay? And so if you guys don't know anything about the story, Nia Long's fiance, Emi Oduka's alleged affair. He's a coach for the Celtics. He talked about the suspension, and I'm gonna read this because it's kind of sad. Like when this happens, they announced this Thursday that he will be suspended from his role as an NBA team head coach for violations of team policies, okay, that reportedly include an alleged romance with a woman on staff. Now, via her rep, Long told Page Six on Friday that although the recent events have been difficult for her to process, she's turning to her loved ones for strength, and the outpouring of love and support from family, friends, and the community during this time means a lot to me, the statement read. She said, I ask that my privacy be respected as we have a family, and blah, blah, blah. But y'all, look, this is a lot. This is where we are as a society, quite honestly, when a man has another piece of behind. Like, and I'm trying to keep it clean. Like, this is how far away, I think our ancestors have to be laughing at us. Like, we are so far out of alignment of who we used to be, where we used to be, what our family structures used to be. Now it's a whole scandal, you know, and it shouldn't even be like this. And I'm not telling you guys that, you know, bringing pain into your marriage or into your union is good. I think that we should have started the conversation for men and given them the option of monogamy or polygamy in the first beginning, so nobody would have to be pigeonholed into these type of lifestyles when they have unconscious desires of something else. Why do I think that is something else going on? Because polygamy was a real practice for our ancestors and most indigenous people. And this is an innate behavior that's finding its way back into the collective and the minds of Black men. So until we deal with this, we have to see that this type of behavior is unconscious, and we're just waking back up in every sense of the word. We're finding out who we are and who our true history and culture, all of this. I'm just saying this is probably going to be more controversial than people coming out of the closet. Men not knowing who their true nature and what their true nature is and where they fall in regards to monogamy or polygamy. This is an inconvenient truth. I'm telling you that people are entering into unions. Men are entering into unions without having the conversation, without having the luxury. Y'all are immediately demonized if you even see another woman as attractive. And I'm just saying that doesn't even sound logical, because look, Solomon, all of our ancestors, everybody in the Bible, this wasn't even a thing to be talking about just being with one woman. And we conveniently skip over that. And so now we've been programmed to believe this Disney fantasy. And these are inconvenient truths now, y'all. This is not convenient to think about this culture accepting that monogamy or your man or whoever you with is attracted to somebody else. And when they step out, that makes them a bad guy. I don't know, y'all. Like, this is so controversial. Like, I know I'm saying good men step out too. Why does this man have to step down, get suspended, I'm just saying in the beginning, Nia Long and whoever she got with, whoever we get with, men have to have this conversation. They don't have room and space for it. That's why I know in our society, we're running into a problem with this. This is going to keep coming up over and over again. And so if you keep putting yourselves in a position of fear, ladies, talking about, oh God, is there going to be hope for us? You thinking about it wrong. Y'all having the wrong conversation. The wrong conversation. Beyonce, Nia Long, Halle Berry, and all of that type of stuff. These are things that are getting in the way of men's true nature. Modern society, as I said in the last video, this is what's happening. It's getting in the way of men's true nature. There's no space for men to talk about this. Men are immediately demonized, even in the event they find another woman attractive. Does that make me a bad man? Like, they have to think about this type of stuff. But yet and still, we know that our ancestors, many of them, as Scheherazade Ali said, many of the Black men historically were not even monogamous. Monogamy came from Judeo-Christianity, and we already know that that's not what our ancestors practiced prior to slavery. So why are we sitting up here trying to completely adopt this even in our love life too? I'm just saying, consider, we're not practicing our traditions. So we don't have any way to deal with or prevent these things. As I talked about in the book, the rituals that take place for the commitment and the loyalty, we're all the way out of whack with our practices. So it's going to take some bumping of our heads a little bit longer until we get this. So I'm just saying it's time for us to change the conversation. So when this comes up and a guy just so happens to be married and just so happens to have sex with somebody and have a relationship with somebody, that doesn't mean that he's a bad man. That means that possibly he has a temperament and a behavior that probably fits, that's not in the context of monogamy. And why does he have to go through some type of pray to gay away, basically, go to therapy and all of this stuff. How about you just talk about being a king in your past life? Listen, our ancestors, we are our ancestors, y'all. This is so controversial. I said, why am I sticking my neck out here with this? Why stick my neck out here with this? Because men are having their own revolution right now. And until we change this conversation around cheating, it's going to be the fear that looms over all relationships. The brothers that reached out to me, thank you, that sent me an email to artcathy@gmail. And we were talking about King Past Life Syndrome. And you put in the comments KPLS or struggling, send me a message. I appreciate y'all because we're going to have a really good Zoom call. I'm going to make space for about 4 to 5 more men I want on the Zoom call because there's no space for this. It's space for judgment. It's space to say, well, he ain't a good man. He should be here. No, gotta rework this. Let's rework it. Bad men, y'all saying bad men cheat. Well, good men step out as well. So what's that called? Learning what men's true nature is and where they fall in regards to monogamy or polygamy is the actual conversation. And that's why this is not a conversation to have with your emotions. Critical thinking is vital right now. It's vital because you don't have a society or a context to support you with this. The only society that supports you, what they're saying is you're wrong, you're bad. And women that are emotionally triggered by this think that I'm justifying the behavior or pandering to men and all of this. Look, as I said earlier, polygamy was a very real practice for our ancestors and most indigenous people. We in modern society are doing something different. And so we're having this unconscious revolution and it's bumping heads with what our program has been telling us. So the fantasy that women have been fed since little girls, that Disney and the man being just attracted to you and that's not working. That's failing. That's failing us. That is failing us. We can't even get to, as the brother said, we can't even get to talking about regulating the boundaries for men with multiple women. We can't even get to that. Like we jump ahead. Already talking about, well, let men know what the regulations need. We can't even talk about the fact that y'all can be monogamous or polygamous by nature. We telling people that they can be born attracted to the same sex, and we done gave them all types of credit, and we done gave them a speech and a flag and a this and a that, and we can't admit that there are men, as I'm starting to tell you, and it's evidence, there are men that are born one way or another. And this modern society is getting in the way of their true nature. Now, we want to go back to the ancestral way in every way that is convenient for us, but we don't want to touch this part. We never want to touch this part about village. Monogamy was not our way. It wasn't even a lot of people's way. It wasn't just us. Do you understand? Eugenicists understand that taking down your numbers and regulating your sexuality is the way to regulate your numbers. We want to be conscious until it's not convenient for us. Oh, well, I don't want to touch this. Well, look, this is not convenient truths right now. This is not convenient truths. Just like Scheherazade Ali was telling you guys, those inconvenient truths back in the 80s and 90s, Black men were not historically monogamous. There are tons of examples throughout the Bible of this. It's too many to count. But we skip over that part. But just consider we're already out of whack. We're not practicing our traditions, so we don't have any way to deal with or prevent these types of things. I'll read this again. There is one dark cloud that looms over all relationships. This on page 63 of my book. We all know it's there, and its presence is felt by the average person, becoming the most common fear of all in love: cheating. Believe it or not, infidelity was a foreign concept to many of our ancestors. At the time of marriage, rituals were performed to maintain loyalty and commitment in the union, but in Western society, things are left up to chance. And this is problematic. And I go on to say, your Black union should liberate you to a greater existence without an unhealthy sense of a possession and attachment. That possession and attachment, we got that from slavery, y'all. That possession and attachment, these types of articles and this type of scandal wouldn't even be a thing for our ancestors. This is a thing for us in this context. And we want to keep demonizing it and treating it as it's this horrible act. Oh my God, she stepped down. And we want to tell ourselves these lies and make this into a whole scandal when it was never even a thing. Sex is extremely important, but it wasn't like this, y'all. It wasn't even supposed to be like this. They have taken away the healthy and pure nature of our sexuality and turned it into a war and turned it into a way to manage and control a man's nature and pigeonhole it into one way, which is monogamy for a lot of people. And these people, some men, it's a lot of men that are not programmed for polygamy. I'm talking about the men that have no space to decide, because you do come into this world wanting one or the other, or finding yourself even somewhere in between, as I talk about in the book. So what about y'all that find yourself somewhere in between? We got in-betweeners and we got people that go toward polygamy by nature, but we got a world that only accepts monogamy. Do y'all not see the problem with that? But we conscious, though. We conscious. We are our ancestors. We're going back to all of our practices. Y'all want to practice Ifa. Y'all want to practice this. You want to practice doing your ancestors, but you don't want to practice the family structures and talk about these things that are in our men's nature. Some of our men, it's a large majority of them that have no space, because, again, it's going to really bust your bubble of your fantasy. And a lot of our women, a lot of people, ladies, the ego is in the way, and the society we live in is created these fairy tales that just don't exist. And so I'm not really interested in what people feel. I'm looking at what's going to happen over and over and over again until we start to have a different conversation. It's a man's nature. It's not about cheating. Men need to find out their nature first, be able to find this out without being demonized, without being told that they're bad. No space to do that. And a lot of them are pushed immediately into the programming of monogamy, which leaves a lot of men trapped in lifestyles that don't truly fit them. And eventually, nature's going to rear its head. So when men are not remotely allowed to have this conversation, that's the real problem. That's the real problem. You ask, my husband and I of 20 years are looking for another wife. Would leaving the U.S. make it easier? I would say getting in a better context. That's why I like going outside of the U.S. Send me a message too, Lady Yolanda. I really appreciate you for sharing this because it's child, listen. I feel like I'm coming out the closet. It's so good to see other people, but yeah, women are gonna fight this, and the modern women are gonna fight this until they die, and that's okay. But that's ego talking. I'm having a scientific conversation about our true nature. This is about history. This is not about emotions. So yeah, I think you would probably be best to find a better context. That's why I do like Africa, because this is just a non-factor. This is a non-factor, and you can't be who you are. Like, hell, I wear my hair a certain way when I'm in certain environments because I'm just more comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain, nuances in culture and being comfortable with who you are and your lifestyle, that for me is a big boost of quality of life. Like, that's real. So you have to be where your lifestyle is supported, because that's a huge portion of your quality of life. And I hope that makes sense. Even with the church you go to, when people are in same-sex marriages, or, you find yourself LGBT and all of that, and you going to a church that's sending you to hell every Sunday, ain't nowhere in the hell I go to a church that don't support me and my lifestyle. You need to be somewhere where your lifestyle is supported. That is very, very real. You can't be hiding and ducking and dodging and da-da-da-da. No, you can't be doing that. So yeah, get another wife. A lot of people are doing this on the low. If you want to live a life and be in secret, like a lot of people are doing. And I want to say again, just to be controversial, it's not about black men don't cheat and taking out cheating. We need to talk about cheating a different way. Stepping out, stop calling it cheating. Call it being attracted to another woman, having sex with another woman without your woman knowing. Because see, this word is very charged, and I want to deconstruct the whole thing. If we don't change the conversation, we're going to keep going around and around in the circles. And I think that demonizing and telling people that these men are bad and you're going to make men the biggest liars in the world. You're going to keep running into this. And then now you shocked and confused and crying and hollering. This could have been a whole nother conversation with Neil Long or whoever else is going through this. And listen, I don't wish this on you in the event that you encounter a lover stepping out on you without your knowledge. I'm just offering you a different way to look at the behavior. Even in psychology, you know, you see men that use cheating or stepping out and anything like that as a form of sabotage when they're dealing with unresolved trauma. Have y'all really looked into the mind and all of this type of stuff? This is not about the Disney fairy tale that is not convenient for you anymore. We're talking about really looking into the mind of people and men. Let's look at psychology. So even in psychology, when men, this is even, you can talk to any therapist. Sometimes when a woman is getting too close, and this is not for all men, this is just sometimes the behavior comes up. If a woman gets too close, he'll unconsciously create a barrier, or in some cases, end the relationship, sabotage, or cheat because he doesn't want somebody to get close. This is just one instance. So this is psychology. This is another way to look at someone stepping out on his woman, on his relationship, on his marriage. But just to call it cheating and you bad and awful, oh no, we about to have a hell of a time with this for a while, y'all. This about to be a rough ride. It's about to be a lot of men that's going to be secretly suffering, struggling. And send me an email, brothers, if any of this resonates with you and you want to be in the room on this Zoom call that we're having upcoming. You know, if we keep this type of conversation, this is going to keep people in the closet. Yeah, you said it's funny a man can't be attracted to another woman, but in the alphabet community, bad faith cheating is okay. Baby, listen to me. Isn't that interesting? Like we have gotten so, and that made me think about something else too. We've gotten completely okay with the same sex thing. I know they're going to demonetize this video, so thank you guys for the cash apps. Because they don't, I mean, just one wrong move, you say anything, they demonetize them, but I don't care because I know this is the nexus. This is the new conversation. But I notice how comfortable we've gotten with this. If I don't stick my neck out now for Black masculinity, for real heterosexuality, and even polygamy, that's a part of sexuality. That's a part of heterosexuality. If I don't stick my neck out for this now, we're going to completely get washed along with the pronouns, the transformers, and all of this stuff. And there's going to be nobody speaking out against Black men that are in relationships that are attracted to other women. What? So we don't have no space for that? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. And we're gonna keep calling it this. I don't like to even call it cheating no more. I don't like to do it. I don't like to do it. I think that's a word we have. I think that's a word we've adopted, y'all. And that word is so charged. Because real people, when they have real conversations, it's not anything like this. I think that we would have done ourselves a lot more of a service if we had kept with our traditions as a people. When we are in tradition, we don't have problems. But when we try to adopt their stuff, it doesn't work for us. And so that's why they tried to bury Scheherazade Ali. That's why they're trying to bury all of the people that touch this. They didn't want her to become mainstream. The sisters did not get behind Scheherazade Ali, and I don't expect a lot of sisters to get behind me with this either. I'm just giving voice to the men who are out here struggling to fit into a context that doesn't fit their nature. And the laws of nature are always going to win. It's going to always trump the laws of society. Forget the laws of society. The laws of society, they break down. That doesn't work. And this is the part of the society that doesn't work anymore. It's not working anymore. Thank you for the super chat. You know, it just don't work no more for us, y'all. And so until we start really looking at other stuff, this is just going to become just more and more controversy. And we got to see it as this thing that we got to be afraid of, just like they had fear mongering about around childbirth. Everything that we've learned from the dominant society is about being afraid. Have y'all noticed that? Practicing your ancestors. Oh, it's voodoo. Oh, be afraid. Childbirth, the most natural things in life. Oh, be afraid of that. Fear mongering around natural childbirth when it is actually just a natural bodily function. It's not an emergency procedure. That's the first thing you learn as a doula. Shout out to my doulas and midwives and people that know about natural childbirth. That's the first thing you learn, is that childbirth is a natural bodily function, not an emergency. So this right here, being treated as an emergency or scandal, this is as natural as somebody taking a dump. When you go to real cultures where, Lord have mercy, men are men, and they are able to be in their nature, be with their wives, and from time to time be with somebody else and going back to life. Child, oh my God. This is hardly news. This is hardly news. We're just starting the conversation. Don't get ahead of yourself. I'm telling you, this is the way it was, and it's waking back up into the consciousness of a lot of our men. And for a lot of them, it hasn't gone anywhere. They just don't have space for it. They just keep cheating and keeping it in private. The more we keep it in the open, the more we won't have issues around what people really want. This is the biggest lie that men first have to tell to you. It's who they are. This is probably the biggest lie I think most heterosexual men are keeping, is where they fall. Because you are born one way, the other way, or somewhere in between. One way, the other way, or somewhere in between. And I'm not going to put percentages on this, but yes, it's a lot of men that only are wired for monogamy. And yes, there are a lot of men that are wired for polygamy. And yes, there are a lot of men that are wired for both. But where they supposed to go? That's my question. Nick Cannon, Young Jock, all these men that can't keep their stuff out of women and keep skeeting off and want to make babies. You think that's just because they degenerate and they don't have no discipline and da. Okay, keep thinking that. I'm telling you, that's that unconscious king's past life syndrome. Yeah, that's that. It was, honey, this is how it used to be. And you thinking that this is not going to come back up in the consciousness? It is, y'all. It just is. And so I don't think that we need to be looking at these types of situations as emergencies and scandals. This is just an opportunity for us to have a real conversation in a different context around men having sex with more than one woman. It's not about cheating. It's about men having sex with more than one woman. That's the real conversation. If you want to have sex with more than one woman when you're in a relationship, does that make you bad? That's the conversation we're talking about. And so if you want to say, yes, that makes him a bad man, okay, well, you've probably pigeonholed yourself into another form of Disney and a fairy tale. That's a fairy tale. But for those of you that want to be critical thinkers and look at this a different way, that, hey, you know what, cheating, when this happens, and I'm in the event that you encounter a lover stepping out on you without your knowledge, I'm just offering you a different way to look at the behavior. Okay, this is talking about the behavior. This is not about emotions. This is not about anything else. So I'm thinking about looking at it clinically, even scientifically, and even spiritually. This was a real practice for our ancestors and most indigenous people. And that doesn't go away in your consciousness. Just like in your consciousness, you know, to research who you are and, you know, your real roots and your origin and your real practices. This is a part of that too, y'all. It's getting in the way. What's happening in modern society is getting in the way of men's nature. Okay. Not the other way around. Not the other way around. For men that feel this conversation, if you understand this conversation, you want to be around other like-minded people. We're going to have elders on the line. I want 4 to 5 more guys, and I'm going to close it out for this Zoom call. But I want a good group, just a nice, intimate group of guys to start this conversation, because you don't have room to do it. And this is for critical thinkers. And so I know it's more controversial than same sex and learning your true nature and where you fall in regards to monogamy or polygamy. You don't have room or spaces to do that. So I'm inviting you to this Zoom call. and send me an email if you want to attend. And in the subject, you can put KPLS for King's Past Life Syndrome, or put struggling if that's how you feel. And so I see these types of stories, and we're going to keep seeing them, and we're creating this illusion, right? Like, is there any hope for us? As the meme said, if Halle Berry and Nia Long and da 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 da. It just sounds like foolishness to me, y'all. It really does. It sounds like y'all are getting duped again, when y'all could really flip the script and change the game, Black women, and say, look, if my man is attracted to somebody else, okay, that would change the whole. Lord have mercy. I know ain't no room for that, because we've only been programmed. I can't talk past the program. We've only been programmed to think that this is a horrible thing. And if you're attracted to somebody else other than the relationship you're in, your wife, et cetera, it's no room for that. So we're going to keep seeing this, and we're going to keep saying, oh, Lord, I hope it won't be me. And I said in the very beginning, in the event that you do encounter a lover stepping out on you without your knowledge, I'm offering you a different way to look at the behavior, because it's not being or pessimistic. This is a common behavior. I mean, we're just going to have to deal with it. This is a common behavior. We see this a lot. Just like we talk about divorce, we see divorce is over 50%. Y'all want to talk about those stats all the time. Well, let's talk about these stats too. The stats of men that are really attracted to other women, that are suffering in marriages and relationships, and are really holding on by a thread to be faithful, and don't really know how, and don't really have any other space to be anything other than just unfulfilled. Like, it's no space for that. It is honestly no space for that. So it's like, that's what we're going to keep having, y'all, until we get some real men and real women that are ready to be critical thinkers in this conversation. We waking back up. We finding out our true history and culture and who we were. And this is the part of it that's painful. This is the inconvenient truth that we have to deal with. Okay. So for the critical thinkers, you know, I'm proud of y'all. Even if you're women like me, I'm male identified. I said this in the last video. So I've dealt with a lot of my programming, and I'm not emotionally invested in this per se. So I can be very objective, you know, because I am, as I said, male identified. It doesn't trigger me as much as most women. It just doesn't, because I can speak for men, and I know what's real and what's fake. It's not convenient for me to say, listen, this fairy tale Disney, only one man and he's only attracted to you, that doesn't exist. And in the same breath, I can say, yes, it also exists that we have men that have no desire for polygamy. I have to keep saying that. Because we have 3 different types, and I'm just making these up as I go along, because I know it's not just one monogamy. We have people that are born polygamous with those tendencies. We said people can be born same sex, and I have tendencies. Okay, well, we need to accept that men are born either polygamous, monogamous, or somewhere in between. Okay, we've talked about, you know, this King's Past Life Syndrome. It's the reason 20% of men impregnate 80% of the women. Y'all have heard of that? The alpha males, and not too many alpha males for the. Like, this is how it used to be. If there wasn't enough men, if there wasn't enough providers of resources, you shared in the very real sense. So it wasn't about this hypersexualized TMZ scandal breaking. Oh, he had sex with somebody else. This was just survival. This was just a very real family structure. This was just life. This was hardly news. And if you brought up your husband or the king or the guy that was taking care of everything, if you brought up the fact that he had sex with somebody else, they look at you stupid, like, girl, okay. This is way, way, way back. So we're in a new context. We're in this lived reality, and it has nothing to do with who we really are and man's true nature. And so y'all are getting this whole propaganda every time you're attracted to somebody else, and you have to go into this hole in this closet now. You have to be in the closet if you're attracted to other women. That means that you're not a good man. You need to pray more. You need to read your Bible. How could you do this to your family? Like, all of this we put on y'all. For you, that's like, would you do that to somebody that just farted or took a dump? No, because they're just doing what their nature is. You wouldn't shout at a woman and tell her she was wrong for breastfeeding her child. She's doing what she's designed to do. It's a part of her nature. But if we don't ever admit that a part of a man's nature is to be somewhere along that spectrum of monogamous or polygamous, and you don't know what you're going to get, But you have to accept whatever it is. Oh, we about to be in trouble. That's the real conversation. It's not about, is he a good man? No, good men have sex with women outside their relationship too. Oh my God, did I say that out loud? No, I'm not gonna say good men cheat too. No, see, it's that word. That word is too charged, y'all. This is about men being sexually attracted to women that are other than their wives and fiance's girlfriends. Where do we put them? That's the conversation we're having. Not all of this telling them they shouldn't have it. That's so crazy. Tell me I'm never gonna pee again. Tell me not to pee ever again. That's you telling a man not to be a man that's naturally wired, that came into this world that was wired to be attracted to multiple women. You telling him only to be attracted to one. Girl, good luck. That makes no sense. It's not even scientific. It's a violation to nature. Like, you should be in an uproar. Matter of fact, you are, man. You're having your own silent revolution about this because it ain't working. It's not working. Honey, the rock's about to cry out. That's how, I mean, it's like, nah, the conversation is not the headline of who cheated. The conversation is, okay, who knows that their man is attracted to someone else and has moved on gracefully and has made it a part of a family structure and has given that man, license and luxury to explore being polyamorous, monogamous, somewhere in between. Child, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm nervous, y'all. I'm just saying they never had the choice. So you setting them up to fail. That's what it is. No, it's not cheating. It's being attracted to somebody else other than your wife. That's the conversation. When we use words like cheating, it comes with a certain connotation. You see, that's like a dog whistle. That's already the connotation of wrongdoing. So that's why I said earlier, this is changing the language and changing the conversation around this. We're not having a real conversation. The conversation is around, what is your man's true nature? And it's going to take us bumping our heads a little bit longer until we get this. It's not going to be pretty. I've dealt with a lot of my programming. I don't have any emotional investment into this. I can be objective because I am a male identified woman. I've been on both sides of that. I've been on the fantasy. I've been wired and programmed. I came in this world being programmed to the Disney stuff, and I know that don't work. No fairy tale. Girl, y'all better listen to that dog on Anita Baker song. This is a whole new song I'm singing to y'all. Men can be attracted to somebody else, and it don't mean it got to break your heart. That's a whole new R&B song I need to come up with, because we've been taught a whole nother way that doesn't serve us, and it's crumbling. It's crumbling under our feet. Why? Because men are not remotely allowed to have this conversation. That's why I want to have this Zoom call. This upcoming Zoom call is going to be great. I want about 4 to 5 more men. Send me an email, artcathy@gmail. I do want you there. We only see monogamy as every man's reality. Every man's reality. That this is the new wave of thought that we're in now. I know we talking about solar power, living green, making money, all the new trends you want to talk about. No, the new trend is black men's real sexual revolution that's going on right now. They're being awakened right now. It's the king's past life syndrome. We want to call ourselves kings and queens until we really want to start acting like kings and queens. This is what kings and queens did. Queens got in line. Queens, if they did have somebody on the side, she didn't have babies with them because it was a bloodline thing. I'm not ready to go into this with y'all yet. But it's a lot of different contexts that are just completely unexplored for us. And we have adopted this Eurocentric way of love, and we're seeing it don't work. It don't work. You got these kings, this fine ass king, God dog it. And you telling him in his nature, he wanna spread it low and take care of a lot of women and love on a lot of women. That's very real. It is men that's wired like that have that king nature to take care of many women and to look after them. And even if you ain't having sex with them, you care about them. But now you ain't with them no more. Cut her off. You told to cut off your exes and stuff like that, and da 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 da. You still got, yeah. It's that part of you that really, even if it has nothing to do with sex, you want to make sure that she's good. That's what kings do. They share resources. It's the access to resources. when it comes to men and their nature and the way they care and the way they show up, that access to resources, when women try to pigeonhole that only into monogamy, that's the first thing she want to cut off. Cut her off. Don't give her no money. Don't do this, because they know that in their heart, that's how men take care of women. That's really showing love. So they want to immediately tell you can't do that for nothing but just them. But it's a lot of you that have that nature to take care of communities, villages, women. You see what I'm saying? And so when you just pigeonhole it into this sexual place as if he want to screw everybody, no, maybe that man just want to take care of everybody. You see what I'm saying? Like, we should have never been looking at Martin Luther King side-eye, because he definitely had King's past life syndrome, especially when you are dynamic man. That's why dynamic men and great powerful men, they have these big old sexual appetites. We call it sexual appetites, but it's actually a king's nature to want to spread his seed and take care and share resources and build a kingdom. That's actually what it is. I'm so sorry, y'all. This is not convenient truths right now. So we want to throw rocks and say, oh, well, Dr. King, he had all these women. Well, you know what? Dr. King was a real king, though. Like, I see it. I get it. Like, I'm not even mad at it, because that's what comes along with that. That comes along with that type of power. A lot of men, as I said in my last broadcast, go check out that broadcast. Every man is not built for this, as I said, but a lot of them, when it's not about sex, and you can talk about this objectively and talk to the elders, you'll never fulfill your potential, because it requires multiple women to manage aspects of your lives. That's how they talk about polygamy. If you want to see this multiple women and stuff like that only from the sexual aspect, you're really limiting yourself. But in a very basic aspect of life, this is what's innately in a lot of men that want to build kingdoms and are powerful. It takes multiple women to manage those aspects. And it's not an employee thing that you can outsource, because nobody's going to have that sense of loyalty and emotional investment as a wife would. So yes, I'm talking about real men that have those king past life regressions in those states of being that feel big and want to take care of many women and have many children, just like Nick Cannon and stuff like that. Yeah, that's King's past life syndrome coming up. And you got this fine man with these resources, and he's supposed to only want it for one woman. That's not really real, and it's not historically accurate, and it's not what spiritually was programmed into us as a people, especially African men. Lord have mercy. And she had an African man at that. Y'all, please let these men have the option. Please let us have a conversation. I'm just saying we need to put the conversation on the table. Or else men are just going to keep lying. Sisters, this is when you really can take control. Get rid of your emotions. Deal with your ego around this. This is not something that's going to go away. I mean, you can keep covering it up, but you're just going to keep living in a state of fear, as I talked about in my book. And so when you're focused on a state of fear and not a state of love, you're not focused on nation building. You're policing your man's penis and policing who he's attracted to. That's what your focus becomes. It's not about nation building. Like, the biggest fear for most women in relationships and in marriages is this right here: her man being attracted to someone else or having sex with someone else. And the biggest one of all is him having sex with someone else and having a child outside the marriage. The end. Those are the biggest fears for westernized relationships. If you defang the snake, take out the sting, have the real conversation that does not demonize a man wanting to have sex with other women, you will defang the snake and you will really become empowered. And you don't have to sit in paranoia and hoping and praying and wishing it don't happen to you. Oh my God. That's not a way to live, ladies, but that's the way that Disney and the fairy tales have, that's what they want for you. That's what they've given you. And a lot of my sisters have drank that Kool-Aid. But for women, as the one earlier that was even talking about a second wife for her husband, a lot of us haven't drank that Kool-Aid, and we see that, it's not logical, it's not practical, and we need to just have the real conversation up front. For men that are only wired for monogamy, this doesn't apply to you, obviously, but we just haven't had a conversation for people that fall somewhere in between, and a lot of men that fall to polygamy. And that's the real gag. And once we free ourselves from that conversation, You don't have to wake up and wonder what your man is doing and hoping and praying that he don't want another woman. You better say, there is a very real nature of men to be attracted to more than one woman and more than me. That is the real deprogramming you have to go through. Deprogram everything, that ego, all of that. Okay. So it's not about cheating, it's about a man's true nature. And it's finding out your nature, guys. And I'm gonna wrap up very soon, but a lot of you are pushed into program monogamy, which leaves a lot of men trapped into lifestyles that truly don't fit them, and eventually it rears its head. So if you want to get free, if you want to start having this conversation, I think this is, again, way more controversial than people coming out the closet, child. You don't even have no closet to go into. You just been living quietly, lying, and keeping up this facade that eventually breaks down. Okay. And you look like the bad guy because after everything come out, you don't want to be the guy that after 25 years you dead and gone and they found out you had kids with, like, all of that type of stuff. It's time for us to get in touch with this. Okay. It's time for us to get in touch with the real conversation, not around our emotions, not around what's convenient for us. It's not about cheating. It's about, what do we call it when your significant other and good men are attracted to someone else other than the person they're in a relationship with. That is the real conversation. Okay. So let's definitely make sure that we really, really get on point with this. Thank you guys for the super chat. Thank you for joining me. And again, send me an email, because for people that are not afraid of this, for people that really want to talk about this, it ain't no spaces. Like, they looking at me crazy already. Like, why are you talking about this? It's bad for a man to cheat. This wasn't the conversation y'all had in mind. This is not the conversation you thought you were going to have. This just isn't the conversation. Like, we done got our unks on. We done got ready for being African, and we want to do all of this stuff, but we don't want to talk about the real compulsion that a lot of men who are unspoken for, that have the desire to be with more than one woman, and they're trapped in a culture that doesn't fit that. What the hell? You know, like, for real, like, it doesn't even fit. And so, again, we want to just take one thing at a time. Take one thing at a time, y'all, because, you know, we're so wrapped up in arguing. We're really pathetic when you look at it. Our ancestors are looking at us shaking their heads. We don't know our heads from our asses. We want to argue, and by ourselves, not building anything. Just want to disagree, want to deflect, can't talk about the subject without bringing it. And men get emotional too. Like, I don't want to have a conversation with emotions. That's why we can't get anywhere. We're not having a conversation with your emotions. We're talking about your nature without you wondering about, well, women having sex with everybody. No, this is about your nature and you being liberated first, and us going back to what we practice first. Let's take back and recreate a new narrative first. Give Black men back their throne first to procreate and be who they are. And so we don't have monogamous men looking down on men that have desires, and men that have desires for other women don't have to be hiding and running and ducking and dodging. You can do it in a healthier way. This is what bringing it out in a righteous way does. This is what giving them the conversation and the ability and the option does. If you take it from people, tell them they wrong, you ain't gonna do nothing but push them right on into it. You don't even do that with your children. You don't give people no room to have the real conversation. And what happens? You suppress it. You suppress people's nature. You suppress people's ability to speak and communicate. And now we got issues. And that's not good for any relationship. So we have a ton of men that fall into polygamy, naturally born that way. You're born that way, or born monogamous, or born somewhere in between. And if you want to float this week to P and polygamy and float the next month to monogamy in the confines of a relationship, you should have been given the option to. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You should have been given that option to, without it being looked at as bad. So yeah, I ain't gonna beat this no more. I hit my 50-minute mark. I definitely didn't want to go an hour tonight. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for sending me an email. I want to open up to at least 4 to 5 more men for this Zoom call. You can put struggling or KPLS for King's Past Life Syndrome in the subject. If you are a woman this resonates with, we want you in the womb school. We're not wiring and grooming women to be sister wives. No, but this is an African-centered sisterhood that teaches you how to heal. We need to heal mind, body, and spirit. We're so full of fibroids and sickness and disease and can't bear children, womb health messed up. It's a lot about us that's messed up, and we have to start rearranging and recalibrating the whole conversation. It's the whole conversation. We're using and we're practicing stuff that's not ours, and it don't work for us. It's like wearing a shoe that don't fit, getting a blood transfusion with the wrong blood. We are practicing lifestyles that don't fit our indigenous makeup. So yes, it's going to take a completely different framework to learn from. This shouldn't even be news. This man having to quit his job and step down and all this stuff because he done got another piece of behind. My God, that's how far away we are. It would not be news to take a dump, and this should not be news. This is what it looks like when modern society is getting in the way of men's true nature. What is it called when good men also have desires and have sex outside of their marriage and have sex outside of their relationship? What is that called? Because we can't keep calling it cheating. We can't keep calling it bad. Maybe and perhaps it's a part of his nature. Maybe he falls somewhere in the middle of polygamy and monogamy at some point, and we should have already had this on the menu for us as a people, but it was taken away. We were sold back something else. For all indigenous people, especially ours, this is not who we are. We're reawakening, okay? So this is us coming back to our real practices in every sense. You're not just learning how to use crystals and yoni eggs and all of that stuff and wrapping your head. You're also waking up to your real indigenous practices too, okay? It's not just the ones that's convenient for you. It doesn't all fit in the Judeo-Christian westernized framework. There is a lot of us that are regressively living and still having the nature to practice and do things as our ancestors did it. And that's just that on that. Thank you guys for joining me. Send me an email, ladies join the womb school, or if you want to get a health consultation or any of that, go to artcathyofficial.com. Love you guys for joining me, and I'm so glad that I stuck my neck out on this because, baby, this is not a convenient truth. Talk to you guys soon. Oh, and be sure to like and subscribe and share this broadcast.